That is spooky, Jurassic. Did you... And here you are. You're like Isaac in Dead Space. You're the only person. You're like the engineer for the building. And did you go investigate? Did you have to get your keys out? Like, you got your flashlight, you're going through. You had to make sure that there weren't any people in the building or whatever. But it was just you alone. Yeah, I walked the whole building 3 times to be sure. Spooky stuff, my friend. No offense, but I'm glad it was you and not me. Yeah, I finished my work lickety split and dipped. I don't blame you. I don't blame you. Oh, gosh. You did the boot, scoot, and boogie right out of there. DMG says, when it's you and one other person in a building at night, buildings make a ton of noise. That's why I have awe in the store. Also, mind you, the store is right across the street from a graveyard. From a very old cemetery. Although the story of Awe is interesting, but we'll save the story of Awe for another time. Now, if you all, please do continue to chat up above. If you have any questions about things that I'm going to present, you're allowed to ask. I am not here to lecture and to, be at my bully pulpit and to tell you just what in tarnation to think or do. I want to inspire you. I want to encourage you to try new things. And so what we're going to do is explore the concept when you're building monsters about putting class levels on monsters. Hi, Thantos. Good to see you. What happens if we make this merfolk a sorcerer or a warlock or a rogue? Jurassic Spark says there's a graveyard up the road from my work and people have passed away inside before, so there's definitely some unrestful spirits lingering. You'd hope, though, that the nature of the place, because it's a place of like goodwill, that maybe if there are ghosts, that it's a good vibe, right? It's not like the evil kind, where they're gonna, they're gonna find a stain that looks like you and nothing else forever and ever, Jurassic Spark. Not that type of ghost. Hopefully with all the good vibes of your workplace, it's enough to, like, placate the spirits. Yeah, no ill intent. Thantos is awake and it's everyone's problem now. Oh, okay, so you're firing your sister ahead like a scouting probe in Star Trek or something. She's like a little satellite, and then once she beams back that it's safe, then you're gonna come out this way. Orchid, hey, just telling ya, plenty of police jobs out this way if you want to come to Ohio. And Cedar Point has its own police force if you want to work at an amusement park as police, as a bonded police officer. There's the Veterans Home if you want to stay in a smaller force. If you want to go bigger, there's Cleveland and in the Cleveland suburbs if you want something medium. You want the small town vibe, plenty of small town vibes as well. Orchid's sisters are red shirts, says Jurassic Spark. Oh, jeez. All right. Now, if you're here, you clearly have your Dungeon Master's Guide. A physical form, or if you're on D&D Beyond or something, then... Oh, I think Maddie's confused. Orchid Twilight does not apparently want to move closer to her sister. Oh, gotcha. So she's just going to be shot off like the Voyager satellite and just boop, is going to go right out into space. If you are playing along at home with the Dungeon Master's Guide, crack open your books, please, to page 274. 274. Because this is picking up where she wants to leave Chi-Town. She's and move to Michigan. Okay, so the in between, not as far as Chicago, but definitely not Ohio. Okay. In our first night, we talked about reskinning monsters. Super easy. We made the entire monster manual into goblins. It's a very highly recommended way to change up monsters, and in fact, it is the first thing that the Dungeon Master's Guide suggests you do. Last night, we talked about building your own custom monsters or taking a monster that exists, and if you want to turn this merfolk into a CR10 merfolk, you know what you do? The only things in this stat block that have to change would be here. Has a +4 proficiency bonus, 17 AC, between 206 and 220 hit points, an attack bonus of +7, DPR, damage per round, of 63 to 68, and any saves that it forces the enemies to make would be on a 16. Boom. Just plug the math into the monster, you know, polish it up a little bit with whatever fluff you want to give it, and there you are. And so we talked about the nature of challenge rating, how there's defensive and offensive challenge rating, and there are also some different abilities. There are different abilities that you can add to a monster. Some of them will not affect the challenge rating at all. For example, Chameleon Skin, as per Troglodytes, will not have an effect on the challenge rating of a monster. Now, maybe in the super specific instance of your game at your table for this fight, it might be a deal breaker. So as the monster creator, keep that in mind. Though if we are just going to make monsters and put them out in the ether for anyone to use in any generic circumstance, it has no real effect on challenge rating. However, let's say that a monster does, the merfolk actually can constrict, as per a constrictor snake. You have to increase the monster's effective armor class by 1. That may not be enough to actually switch to increase its challenge rating, but it can if combined with other things. Also, Jack Daniels on ice. Well, here, let me give you a cheer. As that can be a tasty drink for a lot of people. Now, that is a super redux of everything we went over for the past 2 nights. If you have questions on any of this, then please ask. As well, I'm going to give you the calculator that you can use if you want to play around with the numbers and try out different combinations of things and give them various abilities that could influence the challenge rating of your monster. Well, let's go back to our Dungeon Master Guide, right? You're playing along at home, you have yours. Here we go. We are now on page 283. Monsters with classes. I said classes, not glasses, but I guess if you want to give them glasses, you can do that too. So what if you give the monster some weird features or abilities where they keep talking about eating the something something fruit that gave them these powers where you're just trying to get the one piece in the skeleton cave? Bane, something tells me you have a particular interest in mind, or there's an itch that really needs to be scratched. You're very welcome. I mean, you might have to copy paste the whole thing, but if you want to play around with the numbers, because we can use this, you can use pencil and paper at home as well. That certainly works. You can use the rules in Chapter 3 of the Player's Handbook to give class levels to a monster. For example, you can turn an ordinary werewolf into a werewolf with 4 levels of the Barbarian class. Such a monster would be expressed as werewolf, 4th level Barbarian. Start with the monster's stat block. The monster gains all the class features for every class level you add, with the following exceptions. The monster doesn't gain the starting equipment of the added class. Now, of course, you can re-equip the monster as you see fit, but you don't have to give it whatever the generic outlay for the classes. For each class level you add, the monster gains 1 hit die of its normal type, based on its size, ignoring the class's hit die progression. The monster's proficiency bonus is based on its challenge rating, not its class levels. Now, what did that mean? Remember, if we look at the chart, proficiency bonus at these different challenge ratings. If you have a challenge rating 16 monster, it should have a +5 proficiency bonus. And so that's something you can determine after the fact. Oh, working on the one-shot for Tio Most Frio's Skull Cave. Now, can you give the normal class dice to a monster? Sure. Ultimately, you're the DM. It's your world. It's your call. But this is suggesting that you don't. And we'll go through this. We can go back to the Merfolk, and we can add some levels to the Merfolk, because the Merfolk is a really good generic base to start from, and then we can get into some fun, weird combinations. I was talking about the Cormyrean War Wizard Flump we made one year. We did a gray ooze with monk levels. And you want to talk about a way to dissolve the party member's armor? A gray ooze with levels in monk. That is going to be that's going to be a very interesting fight. Fun, weird combinations. They are half man, half fish. How much weirder do you want to make it? Even more weirder, Bane. Hey, Gloating, good to see you again. So, once you finish adding class levels to a monster, feel free to tweak its ability scores as you see fit. For example, raising the monster's intelligence score so that the monster is a more effective wizard. And make whatever other adjustments are needed. You'll need to recalculate its challenge rating as though you had designed the monster from scratch. More weirder. All the weird, that's right. Depending on the monster and the number of class levels you add to it, its challenge rating might change very little or increase dramatically. For example, a werewolf that gains 4 barbarian levels is a much greater threat than it was before. In contrast, the hit points, spells, and other class features that an ancient red dragon gains from 5 levels of wizard don't increase its challenge rating. Because to an ancient red dragon, 5 levels of wizard is nothing. Sounds easy, right? Flan says, I'm trying to find a new group in D&D to play with on Friday and Saturday at 9 p.m. Central. Well, Flond, we do have a looking for group section that might be able to help you. Otherwise, there are various forums on virtual tabletops if you want to play virtually. And if you're looking for local groups, ask around at your local game store, local comic store, your local library. And sometimes there might be public message boards in places like post offices or other similar buildings. Even some big commercial places like the corner drugstore or something might have a cork board for people who are looking for games or, you know, that sort of a thing, some socialization. All right, we're going to build our monster. Are you ready? What does a merfolk look like? A merfolk, despite the art, the really nice art, right? Very vivid. You get an idea for how merfolk can look. The armor class is 11. The hit points are also 11, which is 2d8 for a medium creature. With 12 con. And it deals 3 DPR. 3 DPR with a +2 to hit. CR 1/8, and wouldn't you know it, we have a CR 1/8 creature here. So congratulations. For as awesome as the art is, and we take a look at some suggested blurbs for, you know, where and how they live, etc., etc. This is a merfolk when it comes down to brass tacks, right? This is a merfolk because things like being amphibious or having a swim speed do not calculate into challenge rating. So now, what do? Let's add some levels of something. I'll tell you what, Flond, I know that you're looking for a game, and this can help scratch that itch a little bit. Flond, I would like you to type !1D12 into chat. All right, you roll the 1d12, and it lands on 6. Oh, so we are going to be adding monk levels to this merfolk. Okay. Let's have Tio Most Frio. Tio, I'd like you to type !1D3 in chat, please. Yeah, you need a 1 in there. There we go. 1. All right, this is a Way of the Four Elements merfolk that we're making. Now, how many levels of Way of the Four Elements are we going to give this merfolk? Bane, will you please roll 1d20 in chat? 1d20, please. Bane apparently lurked. Oh, I'm sorry, you did lurk. All right, I'm sorry, Bane is lurking. I missed that. So, sure. All right, DQ. Oh, all right. 4. Okay, so Bane, we are going to make this a merfolk with 4 levels of monk, and will specialize in Way of the 4 Elements. We'll make that a little bigger there for you. Well, maybe that's what this ends up being, Bane. How did the merfolk get this power? Okay, if there's other roles, then DQ and Jurassic Spark are in queue for it. All right, we're going to keep our merfolk on hold. We're going to go to the player's handbook. And we are going to go to Monk. Now, we know that for the 4 levels, the merfolk is getting +4 hit dice. Okay? So we have to add that. What else is the merfolk getting? 10 feet of speed. Unarmored defense. The ability to use key. Unarmored movement. Deflect missiles. And slow fall. Although, I mean, if we're swimming, I don't know if that would be really relevant, but... Alright, we have 1d4 martial arts die with 4 key points. Burn. Who knows soda made you burp? That's dumb. No warning label on these things. Come on. Cool. We don't need to worry about the rest of this stuff because it can know every skill, and that doesn't increase its challenge rating. We don't need to worry about that. And with our key, this is Flurry of Blows, Patient Defense, and Step of the Wind. Yes, you can go back to bed, Bane. Hi, Cosmic. I've never really gotten to use a lot of wall spells, Cosmic, because I don't get to play too much, so I can't say I have a favorite wall spell. Probably something that isn't the traditional firewall, because it's good, it's solid, and it does that. So it'd probably be something else like Wall of Sand or Wall of Light or something. Hi, Merowyn. How'd your game go? I hope it was well. It's good to see you. By the way, your yellow belt looks really nice and stark against the purple of your name. So congrats on that yellow belt, Merowyn. All right. How do we go about calculating things? Well, first and foremost, you know what? Speed is not going to add to our challenge rating. The hit dice will for sure. Now, some of these other effects may also add to it. Of all of them that could possibly increase the CR, we're probably looking at Flurry of Blows. Immediately after you take the attack action on your turn, you can spend 1 key point to make 2 unarmed strikes as a bonus action. Now, there's an extra note. It's in the Dungeon Master's Guide. It was in the information that we had passed through. When calculating your damage per round, you need to calculate your output for 3 rounds, okay? Your output for 3 rounds. Let me see if I can find it here for you. Overall damage output when you're calculating. To determine, by the way, this is on page 278 of your Dungeon Master's Guide. To determine a monster's overall damage output, take the average damage it deals with each of its attacks in a round and add them together. If a monster has different attack options, use the monster's most effective attacks to determine its damage output. For example, a fire giant can make 2 greatsword attacks or 1 rock attack in a round. The greatsword attacks deal more damage, so that attack routine determines the fire giant's damage output. If a monster's damage output varies from round to round, calculate its damage output each round for the first 3 rounds of combat, and take the average. So if there's only ever one thing it can do, that's easy. Otherwise, if it's variable, such as with a spellcaster, you might only get your big nuke one time, and then it diminishes down from there. You're still taking 3 rounds of information. For example, a young white dragon has a multi-attack routine, 1 bite attack and 2 claw attacks, that deals an average of 37 damage each round, as well as a breath weapon that deals 45 damage, or 90 if it hits 2 targets, and probably will. In the first 3 rounds of combat, the dragon will probably get to use its breath weapon once, and its multi-attack routine twice, so its average damage output for the first 3 rounds would be 90 plus 37 plus 37, divided by 3, or 54 damage rounded down. When calculating a monster's damage output, also account for special off-turn damage dealing features, such as auras, reactions, legendary actions, or lair actions. And this is something else. If you primarily have a caster, you have to consider that two people are getting hit by the AoEs. So, I don't know, you make a custom fireball turret monster, okay? All it does is it hucks fireballs. You would calculate your DPR from the strength of the fireball hitting 2 people for 3 rounds. Or if all it does is fireball, then you only need 1 round, because it'll be the same for all 3, right? Insomnia Night RPG is coming in with 22 viewers. Kagome's Fury, it is good to see you again. Thank you for stopping by. And may I please have a shout out to Insomnia Night RPG. Oh, that's an interesting idea, Cosmic Purge, for a wall of stone. It's definitely world building. Merwin says, the game was a thing that happened. Somehow my poor druid got crowned a queen alongside her 4 siblings and promptly was put on notice by the emperor that we get 12 years of peace before he shows up to wipe us out? So yeah, it's a thing that's going to happen. I foresee a political marriage in my not too distant future. So are you unsure about this? Is this a group where you're going like, I don't like where this group is going. We didn't talk about this. Or is this you sort of like, well, here's what my group, I love them. I love my group, but this is happening. And yes, hello, Insomnia Knight here. I will step up. Let me give you Insomnia Knight RPG. And Insomnia, what was going on in your D&D game? We're talking about adding class levels to monsters and how that affects their challenge rating. Rise of the Drow. Well, I can imagine what happens there then. And hello, Vlad. Good to see you. Centura the Dark says shenanigans. Is this shenaniganery of the highest order that we're talking about? Or are these just wee little shenanigans? So, that is how you go about calculating damage for your average DPR. I hope that makes sense. Now, in this case, let's go back. Let's go back to the monster manual, and we're looking at our merfolk that we're giving 4 levels. Oh, and you know what? There's one more thing, Jackie. There might be something at 3rd level that elements will give us. That's elemental spells, but I don't know if any of the spells are necessarily going to be a higher output than Flurry of Blows will be. Though, I mean, why wouldn't a merfolk be an elemental monk, right? So you could do Thunder Wave, but Unbroken Air. So possibly Fist of Unbroken Air, if we gave that to the merfolk, might have a slightly higher? Maybe not. Spend 2 key points to cast Gust of Wind. Underwater, of all places, too. Shape the Flowing River underwater. That's something for sure. Sweeping Cinder Strike. You can spend 2 key points to cast Burning Hands. A Water Whip underwater? Alright, have a good night, Zumpin' Jurassic. DQ asks, why doesn't it account for attack bonus? It's certainly a lot less lethal than plus 10. Why is what not accounting for the attack bonus? If you're talking about the challenge rating does take the attack bonus into consideration. Merwin says, we have a DM that builds some incredible worlds. This one is politics heavy. He never fails to create an amazing story. Chef's kiss. Okay. So it's not weird magical realm stuff. This is going to build up to something. Got it. All right. Centura says, I play a lizard folk and the party is horrified. What has your lizard folk been doing that has horrified the party? Now, is it just existing? Are they not? Are you the first lizard folk known to exist? Have you actually eaten someone? What's going on with that, Centura? Eating fallen foes. Okay. Well, it's cultural. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, there we go. Even Merwin agrees. Yeah, so DQ, you'll see where that plays in. Don't worry about it. You brought up a very good point. It is considered. We are winning. We're making a Merfolk Monk, ET. I think the undead freaked them out the most. So you created undead? Or there's just undead that exist that are even more creepy than your character? Alright, let's look at our DPR calculations. If we flurry, that means we're going to get 4 attacks per round. We have to presume that each one hits. We have 1d4 plus dex for our martial arts. And if we change nothing on the merfolk, that's 1d4 plus 1. So that is 2.5 plus 2.5, which is 5, plus 2.5 plus 2.5, which is 10. 10 plus 4 is 14. Divided by 4, that's a little bit over 3, so if we round down, then this is... So 3 times 4, it's 12. I'm sorry. If we flurry, our DPR is 12. Because we get 4 attacks that deal 3 damage each. There we go. And we can put that into the calculations. Now, let's say that in 3 rounds, instead of flurry, and we can flurry every round for greater than the 3-round average. Okay? We can do it 4 times because we have 4 key points. But let's say that we actually take one of these monk abilities that is way more powerful. And we do something like... I guess we can do the Burning Hands cantrip. We can do Burning Hands 2 times. So it'd be Burning Hands, and then attack once. And so Burning Hands is going to hit presumably 2 creatures. So let's go down to magic. .3d6 fire damage. And we presume that the 2 are going to fail. So this is going to be Burning Hands plus just a punch. And this is going to end up being 3d6. That is 7, that's 10. 10 or 11, depending on how you want to count it. So if we say it was 10.5, then we're going to say this is going to be 21 plus 21 plus 3. And so this is going to be 42. This is going to be 45. 45 divided by 3 is 15. 15 DPR if we take the Burning Hands key ability, and if we just Flurry of Blows, we have 12 DPR. Cool. Now we have a couple things to take a look at. I'm sorry. Oh, you ate the undead. Okay, there we go. I told you legit. It was the part where you thought they were tasty. Okay, so there's a clarification. Yep. She has threatened to eat a party member for being too dumb to survive. Well, you're doing that party member a favor, right? I mean, this is the law of nature. So we can dish out either 12 DPR or 15 DPR, and hopefully you're able to follow along with how we calculated that. We know that we're getting 4 hit dice, and our DPR is going up. As well, our AC might go up some as well, because, oh, I'm sorry, not deflect missiles. We get unarmored defense. So let's go back to our calculator, because if you all didn't know, this is what a merfolk looks like. Take away all the pretty stuff, and this is what a merfolk looks like. So hit dice go up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Its armor class might increase. Because we need to add wisdom plus dex. So nope, it's still just 11. Now, we can change that if we want. If we feel that receiving monk training would actually boost this up, well, that can be reflected with its new armor class. But right now, let's just keep it the same. We added the hit dice, and now our damage per round, let's put it up to 12. We're not even going to change the attack bonus, okay? Let's pretend that this is the same, even though you think it would actually go up. Just adding 4 levels of Elemental Monk onto the bog standard Monster Manual Merfolk will take it from a CR 1/8 creature to a CR 1/2 creature. So, not too much. You've been able to give this merfolk a lot of extra fun abilities, so that it's not just your standard merfolk is a merfolk is a merfolk. This one went from CR 1/8 to CR 1/2 by adding 4 levels of monk. It's a little tougher. It has a couple special things it can do. And there you go. And these still aren't necessarily going to, blow the party out of the water. Quite literally, right? Blow the party out of the water. Now, even if we move the damage per round up to 15, all right. So, in this case, if we bump the DPR to 15, it does go up if it's using its Burning Hands and hits 2 people for the 2 times it does that. Okay? And if you want to go and go through and say, oh, you know what, though? If it's going to be more powerful, I should increase its to hit or its AC. It should have more dex. Well, that more dex is actually going to increase its DPR on punches, not on the Burning Hands. It'll increase the DPR on punches, and its armor class might go up by a couple. So let's say that you bump up. We're going to keep the Burning Hands because that's already the more powerful option on average. Let's say that you give this 4 levels of Monk Merfolk 2 more dex and 2 more wisdom. So it has a 15 AC. If this is operating off of saves for the... If it's operating off of saves for the Burning Hands, then that would be based off of wisdom. So we're going to increase that just a little bit higher. The DPR didn't go up. I mean, it might go up technically 1. Well, no, because the 1 punch is averaged into 3 turns. So it wouldn't even do that, really. You could if you want, just in case, but whatever. Anyway. Boom, we'll put it to 16. It is still a CR1 creature, because it has a CR2 offensive ability, and only a CR 1/4 defensive capability. You average it together and you round it and you still get a CR1 monster. So, the merfolk out of the book, give it 4 levels of monk, bada bing, bada bang, bada boom, hey, forget about it, and you bump it up from a CR1/8 to a CR1/2 to possibly a CR1, depending on the moves that you give it. Now, let's try one more quick review monster creation. Let's go to... I guess we randomly rolled here. We are going to try making... This is still very, very humanoid. I'm going to go for something else. Sierra Echo, will you please type exclamation point 1D100? Hi, Nina. Good to see you. Page 3. Or whatever the third page of monsters is going to be. Hold on a moment. Alright. Aarakocra, page 1, page 2. Page 3 is angels. Alright, so here we go. We have a Deva. Nina, will you please type exclamation point 1D12. Boy, the aboleth actually might make for a more interesting than another humanoid, but let's see. A 3. That is a cleric. I think they can already do healing touch. Alright, so this is redundant. It would be giving it more spells. It might possibly be able to get a higher challenge rating than 10, depending on how many cleric levels you give it. Let's do this. Maybe Death Cleric? We could try. I don't know if that'll necessarily significantly enhance it, but there was that example that an Ancient Dragon, getting 5 levels of Wizard isn't really going to do too much, right? So let's go to Cleric. And what type of a Cleric? We have 8 different types of Clerics in the base book. Can I have DQ? DQ, can you roll 1d8 in chat for me? One. Well, there you go. Everyone, you have an emote for it. Sierra Echo called it. It writes itself. The story writes itself, my friends. That's what happens in our workshop. Centura, are you still hanging out with us? If not Centura, Insomnia Knight, are you hanging out with us? There you go, Nina. All right, Tio. Yeah, if our raiders here aren't hanging out, Dragon is here as well. Okay, I'll tell you what. Cause Tio, did you have a roll already? Maybe. St. George DSC. Oh, so we have a first-time chatter? St. George. Thank you for hanging out with us here. Go ahead and type exclamation point 1D20 into chat. No spaces, just exclamation point 1D20. We're adding 15 levels. All right, we're adding 15 levels of Death Cleric. "15 levels of Death Cleric to a Deva." All right. So first up, we are going to be giving the Angel plus 15 hit dice. And then, really, we just need to take a look at the damage output, since that is going to be some of the other bigger features that it'll be getting. A lot of other clerical things may not necessarily directly add to the challenge rating, of the Deva. So 15th level, so 5 cantrips. Our 3 spells would probably be what these are: an 8th, a 7th, and a 6th. If we're calculating DPR, because you go with your highest possible output. Not worried about equipment. None of that really matters. And as for... let's see, we were on page 277 or thereabouts. So we need to go to... We need to go here. Death Domain, it's just going to give us some more spells. Not worried about that. Reaper. The Cleric learns 1 Necromancy cantrip. If that can target normally 1, you can send target 2. So that could be something to possibly consider for DPR, because that would turn your cantrips... that could turn your cantrips into something. Otherwise, we're probably just going to be nuking down people with AoEs. Touch of Death. So it'll channel Divinity to deal extra necrotic damage to the target. Damage equals 5 plus twice the Cleric level. So this is going to be... If we melee, this is going to be a plus 35 from our channel divinities, because we have to, like, what is the maximum power of our output here? Ignoring resistance isn't necessarily going to be a big changer. Plus 2d8 plus 2d8, and then our third one is still going to be plus 2d8 for melee strikes. And we don't have improved Reaper just yet. Okay. So actually, our DPR can be cantrips, melee, or nukes, which would be our big 3 spells. And we can do, without looking at all the different spells, there's a quick reference that we can do, because I don't want to sit here for an hour going through a whole spell list. Because the spells scale in a particular way. In this same section, and well, it's the next section after, but here for spell damage, There is a basic breakdown if you want to make your own spells, how you can allocate the damage for them. And remember, AoEs are considered to hit 2 characters. So we have a 8, 7, 6. So this is 13d6 times 2. The 7th level spell is 12 and then 11. 12d6 times 2, and then 11d6 times 2. Alright, so this is... let's see, we have 3.5 is our average of 6. So we have 13 times 3.5 is 45.5. $12 times 3.5 is 42. And 3.5 times 11 is 38.5. Now we add these together. So this is going to be 39. That is going to be 41. This is going to be 81. 86. 126. And then 126 divided by 3 rounds is 42. Oh, I was doing all this up here. So this is going to be 42 DPR if we drop 3 nukes. Melee, depending on the weapon, if it's a classic mace or something bonking, that would be D8 plus strength. We don't necessarily know the strength offhand, but I mean, if we have 15 levels and whatnot, we're probably pretty high. So we're going to, let's bake into the fact that our strength mod is +5. So that is going to be 5 plus 3.5. So 8.5 plus 8.5. And then we have another 8.5. Now, we can also, remember, if there's other things going on, like a spiritual weapon, we need to include the spiritual weapon in any of these calculations. Right now, this is Strength Mod 5, no spiritual weapon presumed. So this is this is going to be 9. Average of 2d8 is going to be 9. So we have 44. This is going to be 52.5. So this is going to end up being 105.5, 122.5. We're going to round this up to 123, and we're going to divide 123 by 3 rounds of combat. And so melee equals 41 DPR. If we cantrip and hit 2 people, That'll depend. Let's see. I think Chill Touch. So Chill Touch is a D8, and by 15th level we have 3D8. And that's so that'll end up being 68 is the constant. We don't need to do 3 rounds because that's just us presuming we're hitting 2 targets with our cantrip every round. So it'll be 68, and of course or less if not doubled. That is 4.5 times 6 is 27. Yeah, George, this was including not just Divine Strike, but this was also including the improved Divine Strike, because they were a 15th level Cleric. Ba-ba-da-ba-doo. Oh, it was back in the DMG here. Yep, sorry. I know that the math is going by quickly, but that is something to consider. So when we have 15 levels, there's a lot of things. We have some different DPRs to consider. Also, remember, this is presuming that we don't already have a spiritual weapon out. Because if our tactic is to immediately pop a spiritual weapon and have that attack every round, that damage also has to be included. But let's pretend that we're not giving this Deva a spiritual weapon. So we did some math. I hope it wasn't super scary for a lot of you. It's just listing what is going to deal damage, because really that's what CR calculations look for. Now we need to go and build. We need to build our Deva. So, 17 AC. It is a medium-sized creature, and it has 16 hit dice already. Its con is 18. Its DPR, depending on how we want to... oh, this is going to have angelic weapons, by the way, which does boost up. So angelic is extra 48. In fact, Devo is the standard here. Actually, so 48 would be 9, 18. Yeah, so plus 18 radiant damage. It already had the average in there. So angelic weapons, 18. Our DPR off of our mace is simply going to be 7. Or I'm sorry, we get 2 melee attacks, so that's going to be 14. The attack bonus is a plus 8. Let's see. This does have immunities and resistances. Or just resistances. Radiant, bludgeoning, piercing. So this does have resistances. It flies and can deal damage, but that only matters for CR 0 through 9. Because once you hit level 10, a lot of that doesn't matter anymore. So we don't need to bother checking that off. This is at a CR 10. Do we have a CR? Yep, there's our CR 10. Just so you all know, this is what, for as cool as the art is, if you're following along in your monster manual, this looks really nice. It was very well done and laid out. This is what a Deva actually looks like for the mechanical purposes of Dungeons and Dragons. It looks like this. But if we reduce the Deva down as such, this is going to make things a lot easier for us to find out what happens when we add 15 levels of Death Cleric to a baseline Deva. We're going to add 15 more hit dice. Let's do that first. One, two, three, four, five. Well, whatever. It's 16 plus 15 is 31. I'm just going to type it in. We have 31 hit dice. Our armor doesn't necessarily go up unless for some reason you as the DM say for this encounter, it's going to have extra magical armor. If not, and we're not going to consider that, we're just going to leave armor class 17. The only other thing that we're changing is our DPR. And if we come in heavy with melee, and or nukes, our DPR is going to be pretty much the same. Honestly, our melee is actually going to exceed it because Angelic Weapon would stack on top of our ability as a Cleric. So we're getting extra bonus melee damage. So let's just choose that we are a melee Deva, a melee Death Deva. And so that's going to be 41. We go from 14 to 41. Nothing else changes. Let's look at what adding 15 levels of Death Cleric just did to our Deva. It is now a challenge rating 16 creature. A CR 16 Deva is a by-the-book monster manual Deva with 15 levels of Death Cleric. And you might go, but wait, it can heal. It gets all these spells. In fact, it might even go higher if we include, defensive bonuses or the extra spiritual weapon or whatever. But that aside, sorry if I missed something here. Catch the math. Oh, Rip Artist is a thumbs up. Merowyn is in the top 100. You're hanging in there. But yes, so adding 15 levels of Death Cleric, under these conditions, brings our Deva to a CR 16 and not a CR 10. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I was talking about, but it can heal. It can do all this stuff, right? It has Healing Touch. It does. Though, if it's using Healing Touch, it's not attacking. And you might say, well, if it's healing itself, then the DPR goes down. That's true. And that aspect of the challenge rating calculation would drop if you expect it to heal as an action, so it loses DPR. But if it's regaining hit points and you consider that a regeneration effect, you have to account for it, because what it heals, what you expect it to heal for, is effective higher hit points. Because all healing is a larger hit point bar overall. In the grand scheme of this combat has a pool of this many hit points that it's our job to diminish. Hopefully that made sense. So we had an elemental monk merfolk and a 15 level death cleric deva. And you can see that all it takes is a little bit of adjustment. And if you don't want to go through and do the math, just get into a calculator like this and play with the numbers, and then you just retroactively like say, okay, this is how it would meet out. If you love crunch and you love math, you can get into the fine minutia and do a lot of tweaks and balances. If you like broader stuff and you go, whoa, all right, hang on, this is just nuts. If you plug in the numbers, because challenge rating only needs a couple pieces of data, set it to where you need it to be, and you absolutely fluff out the rest. The calculator, I will send it to you. So here, we get our last glimpse. I'll reset our calculator. And here you go, Merowyn. So last night we created a spider goblin in here, and tonight we created a merfolk monk and a death deva. Now, what we're going to do tomorrow night, we are going to completely randomize a creature, and we're going to make something original. We're going to roll for what type of creature it is. We're going to roll for its we're going to roll for its CR, and we're going to try and make at least one original creature following the instructions in the Dungeon Master's Guide. And it won't be a reskin. It won't be us just loading a deva into a calculator and having it deal X amount points more damage. We're gonna roll for the type of monster it is. We're gonna roll it'll be fun. It'll be fun. Well, at least I hope so. And it should be an interactive workshop. But so far, we've talked about reskinning, how to just go in and purely up or downgrade a monster with stats alone. And tonight we went over how you can add class levels. And how class levels can sometimes have little to no effect, or can be very dramatic. Something similar that we saw with our deva, although maybe it was unexpected. You're like, what, a deva with 15 levels of death cleric? That's gonna blow everyone out of the water. It's already a CR10. It turned it up to a CR16, yeah. But it didn't make it some epic 20 plus CR monster. Because remember, challenge rating only looks for a couple things. It can fly as much as it wants. That's not going to affect the CR. It can have dark vision. Doesn't matter. It can speak every language and be proficient in every skill. Has no bearing on challenge rating. So that's, in a sense, that's good. Because you can really customize monsters and keep them to the general bounding, the suggestion that a challenge rating is. And then if you really want to go through and you go back to Merfolk, or I don't know, you come down here to, oh, Grell. We are going to just absolutely up the Grell. I don't want a CR3 Grell. I want a CR23 Grell. Well, you can use the math that we went over from the Dungeon Master's Guide. All of this is in the 270-ish range. If you're playing along at home using your Dungeon Master's Guide. It's in the 270-ish page range. You can use the written instructions here and a piece of paper and a pencil for the easy math, or you can use a calculator or the like in order to up the monster, because all you have to do for this, all you have to do is just increase a couple stats. DPR, attack bonus, hit points, armor class are the primary ones, with a couple riders being some of these monster features. But remember, not all monster features actually affect the challenge rating. If you give your monster false appearance, like the gargoyle, as per gargoyle and monster manual, doesn't matter. Won't affect CR. Now, it might affect your specific combat in your specific game, yes. That could be an accelerant, or that could really up the ante. But in generic setting, no, it won't. Labyrinthine Recall, nothing. You made an impromptu flame skull. And Rip, I'm really glad that you have learned something from these workshops. So here, you know, in most of them, it's sort of a play along. We're going to build characters and do this. Because I don't do monster workshops all that often, October's always the guarantee. This is much more an instruction, because a lot of us who play D&D don't often open the hood and start tinkering with the engine that we use primarily in our games. And this is... no. So Manchita the Deva did not include lair actions. Any sort of stuff on the side, like lair actions or auras or whatnot, need to make sure that they're accounted for in the DPR of a creature. If you're giving them lair actions, reactions, legendary actions to do things, etc. But a lot of us don't often lift the hood and tinker with the engine. So whenever I do this, I always hope that I'm making it easier to follow along. And I'm making this small engine repair class, you know, a lot more accessible to you. Because I want you all to understand this material so your brain can just go, that's awesome. I want to run, you know, goblins. I want to run warlock goblins, but I don't want them to be, you know, like, I don't want to just use something else that was written. I want these to be like my specific warlock patron goblins. Or you want to make barbarian Grell. We're talking about Grell. Or barbarian Gorgons. Add 5 levels of barbarian to the Gorgon and see what happens. If nothing else, your Gorgon is absolutely different than everyone else who runs a Gorgon as a Gorgon as a Gorgon. Are there any other questions then? As I'll field them as best I can in chat. Just let me know.